Hello students, and welcome to this video where we're going to continue our discussion on money, budgeting, and interest, and we're going to be talking about the topic of compound interest. So here's a visual image of compound interest. Compound interest begins to grow fast and fast. It actually grows exponentially. So this is the reason why a lot of times when you borrow money, when you pay it back to the lender, they're going to use compound interest and compound the amount of money that you have to pay back. Because over time, quickly, your money begins to grow, and so that you're going to have to pay back a much larger amount. When I think about this idea of compounding, we work out the interest for the first period, we add it to the total, and then we have to calculate the interest for the next period based on that new total. So if you have 10% of a rate for interest and you start out with $1,000, 10% of that is $100. So I add that and I have a new total of $1,100. But if the amount is getting compounded again, I take 10% of 1,100, which now is 110, and I add that and I come up with a new total. And if it's going to be compounded again, I take 10% of that amount and I get 121, and that's added to the total amount, and it keeps going. So essentially, you're doing interest on interest. After a year, Alex owed $100 interest. The bank thinks of this as another loan and charges interest on it as well. And so it keeps growing as years go on. There's different types of compounding types. You have daily, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, and annually. Essentially, the numbers that you're going to plug in for your compound value is dependent on which word is used, meaning, what type of compound do you have. So if I'm compounded daily, how many days are in a year? 365. How many months? 12. How many quarters? 4. How many semi-annuals? 2. And how many annuals? 1. And for the purpose of this class, if we're talking about weekly, we're going to utilize 52. So this is the formula that you're going to want to jot down for compound interest. I'm going to actually teach you how to do this in Excel as well so that you don't have to do things by hand. But if you're an individual that appreciates and likes doing things by hand instead, you're welcome to do so for some of your assignments. But P stands for the principal value. We've talked about this before. That's your original investment. Your interest rate will always come to you as a percent, but you will plug it in as a decimal. Your time will be in years, and then your compound value is going to be at the bottom of the fraction as well as in the exponent, and you'll determine that number by the amount of times you're compounded. So again, here's another visual in a table format that shows you that your interest rate begins to grow very quickly. Definitely has an exponential function when your interest is being compounded upon itself. So think about when compound interest could hurt you versus when it could work to your advantage. Well, if you're the person that's borrowed money, so let's pretend that you've utilized a credit card to purchase some items. This would actually work in, as a disadvantage to you, right? Because you've borrowed a certain amount of money and then you receive interest on that payment. And if you're unable to pay it back, then when the next month comes rolling around, more interest is going to be charged on you, and you're unable to pay that, and the cycle is going to continue until you pay off your credit card payment, and that's really going to stink for you because it's going to grow really, really quickly. This could work to your advantage if it was like a savings account or maybe stocks or something of that nature where you had interest occurring on your amount and it was compounded. You would be gaining a lot of money very quickly in a short amount of time. Now, when we talk about investment, it's when you put money where it can grow, such as in a bank or a business. Maybe you invest in stocks. If you invest your money at a good interest rate, it can grow very nicely. In this section, we're talking a lot about money, but there's other creative ways to invest as well. I have a friend that she likes to invest in real estate. She finds it fun and relaxing and enjoyable to buy homes and to fix them up and to make them really, really nice. And then she puts them back on the market, and she's able to sell them for a lot more than what she purchased. That's a form of investment because she's doing it with a mindset of money and growing her money and figuring out how much can she put into a house to make it better and then be able to sell it more for more than what she purchased it for. So here's a really quick example. If If you put $603 in a savings account that pays 9% for 1 year, what is the amount of money you'll have at the end of the year? So for the purpose of this video, I would just want to identify each of the parts. 603 is going to be my principal value because that's what I started out with. 9% is representing my rate, but I know that when I plug this into the formula, I'm actually going to need to type in 0.09 because 9% requires me, in order to get rid of the percentage sign, to move my decimal 2 places to the left. I'm working with 1 year, so that's my time. What is the amount of money you'll have at the end of the year? So I'm looking for the final value. That's what I'm concerned about. There is no compound value, so let's pretend that this said you were going to be compounded monthly. Then in your formula for compound, I would plug in the number 12 for compounded monthly. Here's another example, and again, I'm not sure why I've put 2 examples without compounds. I apologize for that. I'm sorry, I can't talk today. I'm losing my voice, unfortunately. Let's say that this is compounded semi-annually. So then as I go through my problem, how much interest is earned on a principal of 267? So that's my p-value. I'm investing at an annual interest rate of 6%. So I need to convert that to a decimal, and that's my rate, 0.06. 6 years is going to be the value that I would plug in for my time. And for compounded semi-annually, there are 2 semi-annuals in a year. So I'd be plugging in the value 2. All right, as always, I hope you found this video helpful. I hope that this gave you a little better idea of what compound interest is. And as always, if you have questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out. Have a great day.